Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be breaking down new comments from Kathleen Kennedy concerning the Rey Skywalker movie and more. Also, James Mangold has finally spilled some beans about his long-rumored Boba Fett movie. What is this, like 2013 rumors about Boba Fett movies? We'll examine. That's I feel like nostalgic for 10 years ago. All of a sudden, we'll examine everything
Boba Fett
they
movie
said.
rumors do make me nostalgic.
New intro.
You are quite. Tune in for that and much more on the show. Joining me, it is Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Yeah, as if they didn't already know I was here. How's it going, everybody? It's great. I was informed by a loyal listener that apparently this is the 100th episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast on YouTube.
What?
Oh,
apparently. I had to actually check the numbers on this and verify this, but someone told me that this was the case. And I actually did go into the YouTube and count, and it looks like it's actually right.
Because we had some weeks where we did more than one in a week, so that's probably how that happened.
Right.
Because I know we haven't been going for 2 years.
This is not the 100th episode of the podcast. It's the 100th episode on YouTube.
Got it.
That's
amazing that we've already done 100. It just seems like yesterday when we started on YouTube.
Right.
That's amazing.
I remember one of the first or second shows that you guys did, and Chris, you really leaned into the fact that you were visual, and the podcast was visual now. And you put out at the end of the show, this is not even interesting, but it's somehow stuck in my memory. You were like, comment what color shirt I should wear next week. And you were so hardcore on it. Like, you let me know and I'll wear that color shirt next week. And I remember sitting in my living room watching it. I'm like, this is prime television. That I feel involved. I felt like I was a co-host already at that point. Oh, it was so great. I think someone said purple, and I'm pretty sure the following week you were or red or something was a purple, and then you like did it next. I was like, this is awesome. That's
I was in. It was not anywhere.
Do that again.
I couldn't find the purple shirt that I had, so I had to go to my storage unit, and I was like ripping apart boxes, and I was like, you know, waist deep in random clothing and things, trying to find a purple shirt, and I finally found it. But that was a journey to find that purple shirt. I remember that.
People don't understand the change it was going to visual medium from an audio medium, because for me it was just like, oh my God, I have to comb my hair. I have to actually, people are gonna see me doing this. What is this madness? And you know, it was a big step up, and you know, just going from like hardcore people know that I used to podcast in the dark here. I didn't used to turn my lights on, okay? So like having to have like bright lights on me all constantly, I don't like that, okay? I'm still getting used to it, but yeah, it's been a thing. So look, now I'm just like, it's just no big deal, but it's been an adjustment period, and now we're 100 episodes into this apparently, and it's great. And shout out to Martin from Culture Slate, who actually was the person who found that information.
Nice. Nice. Thank
Wow.
you, Martin. I would not have known because we don't number our shows, but it has been about 2 years, so that makes sense. Uh, awesome. Also, I forgot to mention, my name's Chris, in case people are confused. I forgot to say my name at the beginning of the show.
Did you?
I was
Very
thrown off
important
by
by
Dominic
Dominic
not being here. Like I usually have this thing where like I'm Chris and I'm joined by Dominic, but I did it. I was all thinking about, okay, how do I do this? Well, I guess I'm going to introduce Ben then, and then that whole thought process threw me off, and I forgot to say what my name was. So that's my name. And that other person that you hear over from the Raeside, RAE side, it's Hannah.
G'day there. I can't wait to talk about my upcoming movie. It's got to be connected to the James. You know what? To be fair, I actually really struggle with his last name. Is it
It's Mango. It's like
Mango?
the,
James
it's like the
Mango.
fruit.
Yeah.
It's like the fruit. James Mango. That's his name.
Mangold.
Oh, it's French.
What's his name?
You don't know letters at the end of a French name. Mango.
Mangold.
James Mango.
You're gonna catch me. I'm gonna say that's his name now.
That's all I'm gonna
Anyway.
say from here on out.
I was ruined
Anyway.
now.
Have fun not saying that.
Oh no, it's got to be good, but it is hilarious how much I literally at the start in the intro we're like talking about the Rey movie, and I'm like, my movie? It's like it's gonna catch me every time.
That's right.
But great to be here. Can't wait to get into it.
Heck yeah. So we're going to get into all that exciting news in a hot second. But speaking of YouTube, which we have been on for almost 2 years now, make sure you punch that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening, you can also subscribe on the podcast app that you're on right now. I guess you could still listen to our episodes by just going to like a website. I don't know. Is that still a thing? So for you,
You can actually click a link and open a browser and listen
What?
to it just in a Google Chrome browser from our website. Okay, it's still things.
Wow.
I don't know if anybody does that anymore, but it's possible. You can get
Full
our podcast in a
disclosure?
variety of different ways.
Full disclosure, that used to be my preferred way to listen to podcasts because I used to listen to podcasts on my computer, and like, why not do it that way?
That's amazing.
I didn't
wow.
have a smartphone for a while, so I just bring my laptop around and listen to podcasts.
I
with
assume
headphones.
that's before the invention. I mean, we had iPods, which is podcasts were named after, I guess. And then I guess there was this weird era where just people would just sit at a computer and not watch a video, just listen to a podcast.
Just sit and listen.
I never had an iPod somehow. I somehow skipped that
What?
trend.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
I never
I'm
actually.
like,
I had
no,
a like a MP3 player. Like I had a knockoff iPod, but you can only put like 10 songs on it. And so I don't think you would have been able to set a whole podcast on that without
wow.
compressing the heck out of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you ever produce the podcast onto CD?
I don't think I've ever put a podcast on a CD before. I put music on CDs
Should have done
before.
that.
But yeah, I don't know if I've ever done that
Oh
with
well.
a show.
Netflix, but with podcasts, we just burn them onto a CD and send them out.
Yeah.
Instead of online. Yeah.
I used to try to make movies and put them on DVDs. That was a whole trip trying
That's
to
a
figure out how
thing.
to do that. Yeah, that's not easy. You have to get a special program and yeah.
Oh
And
man. The
there
days.
might have been an incident with me in Attack of the Clones. Yeah.
What?
I was like, I like this movie
amazing.
so much. Yeah, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. Punch the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and you can also super chat if you're watching live right now. We've already got a bunch of super chats that people have sent us. It's one person has sent us. Thank you, Joel.
I wonder who sent a super chat.
I saw a bunch of them. I'm like, it's like a few people that I look. I'm like, oh, it's Joel. So if you want to join Joel in the super chats, you can do that, and we'll get to that in a bit in the super chat / ask the SWU section of the show. And then the follow way you can support us is by becoming a channel member. But if you want to be a part of the party that happens when we're not broadcasting, you can join the SWU Network Discord, and that's where we got movie nights. That's where we got game nights. That's where we've got discussion happening every day, not just about Star Wars, but many other things. So check that out. The link is in the description of everything. The SWU Network Discord. It's an awesome place. All right. So
Yeah.
let's get to the
and
news.
I guess we should the address something.
Where is
Where's
he?
Dom?
Where's Dom?
And for the
He's
record,
here, guys.
we don't know. Okay, we don't.
Oh jeez. Oh jeez.
I can't really describe that to the audio listeners. I'm just going to say you might
I
need to
just
listen
thought that. I
to
was like, I
it.
don't know how to say that.
On YouTube.
Well, Hannah, just explain to what you're looking at right now. Just explain it
this
to people.
is
please, Hannah,
Jar
explain
Jar. Jar Jar, after episode 1, in between Attack of the Clones, he became a bodybuilder and entered many competitions and became Jar Jar Swole with incredible tats and size and incredible physique. So that is what we are visualizing here, a bodybuilder Jar Jar.
There we go.
Misa heard that Jar Jar is shredded.
Yes.
Oh my god!
It's Swole
Jar
Jar.
Jar Swole.
This is Swole Soul.
Swole.
Yeah,
Swole.
Jar Jar Swole. There we go.
Swole Binks.
Yeah.
Jim Jar.
Yes, exactly.
Swole Soul.
Jim Jar Binks. Jar Jim Binks.
This is Jim Jar. Jim.
Oh, God.
Jim Jar. Jim.
Jimothy.
Jar
There's Jim and then there's Jimothy, and this is Jimothy.
Oh wow. Jar Jar Squad.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's what it is.
Okay, so now that our audio listeners are caught up and they know what Dom has turned into,
What are you about to punch?
we can get into the news.
Mystery solved. To the news. So we got a lot of like quotes and stuff this week. Weirdly, like there's a lot of weeks we'll just get like one really good quote. We got like several of them because, as you may or may not know, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is releasing right now. There are people in theaters watching that movie right now. Yeah. So the premieres have been happening. A lot of interviews have been happening. James Mangold, Kathleen Kennedy, the cast, the crew, everyone that's also working on Star Wars stuff concurrently is out in the world. Specifically, Kathleen Kennedy has been talking a lot, and she dropped some crumbs. She dropped some really interesting stuff in regards to the Rey Skywalker movie. Obviously, the new Jedi Order. You keep calling it that, but is that the title of it? Probably not. It's a good title. It's a good title, but who knows? But
Heir to the
she
Empire,
has been talking.
That's what they're called.
Yeah, they're all called Heir to the Empire now. Every movie is just called Star Wars Heir to the Empire. You had to figure out which one's which. Even though is Rey heir to the Empire because she's the daughter of Palpatine. Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that.
That's how that works.
Okay. But so back to Kathleen Kennedy. She had some very interesting things to say about the upcoming movie, or maybe the next movie coming up. We don't know. But she talked about specifically some connections it could have to James Mangold's movie, which is set, as we know, 25,000 years before that. So should be interesting to see how this goes. But she says, quote, "It was something that Jim Mangold immediately sparked to, and I think it's a really nice compliment to what we were doing with the movie in the future with Rey, and understanding a bit more of where this all came from, because with all, it will be at the heart of creating the new Jedi Order. So to get a real sense of where that might have began with the dawn of the Jedi could be really cool." And then she kind of goes on to talk about in her own words, kind of the next chapter and how they're going forward with this. And she says, "I think there's always a great about Star Wars is a big galaxy. We're coming off a major war with the First Order, and now Rey has made a promise to Luke, and that's really the core of what we're going to with this story will be. I think it offers just a tremendous opportunity to introduce new characters and start with something fresh, because we culminated with what George Lucas was creating, and now we take all of that and we move it to the next chapter." So on one hand, kind of talking about how it could thematically connect to, we're essentially doing the whole, the future of the Jedi and also where the Jedi began. And obviously there seems like there could be some connections there, but just also I liked the whole idea of, them talking about, carrying on, and the sequel trilogy really was this thing that was taking what George Lucas left off and continuing it, whereas this would be essentially a completely different thing. Does anyone have any thoughts on these quotes?
I think it's really interesting that they're seeing it kind of like as a hard boundary instead of like a transition into a new era, because that's kind of what I was expecting the sequels to do. Like I was expecting episode 7, 8, and 9 to kind of lay new groundwork and like still connect things into the past, but really like set up a new story and new characters and new situations, and then have a lot build off of that. It almost sounds to me, it really does sound, I think it's very clear based on what Kathleen Kennedy is saying, that she really doesn't view the sequels as a foundation for a new era of Star Wars. She views them as a closing of a chapter for the old era, which I is really fascinating because I've never really thought of them that way, and I didn't expect people to internally to be thinking of them that way. But it kind of explains a lot when you look at how much attention they've given the sequels and those characters over the last several years. It explains a lot that they were viewing it as a final chapter and not kind of like the first chapter in the next saga, because the way that they've kind of abandoned it, that makes sense, like you would abandon something if you were done with it. And it sounds like they were kind of done with the Skywalker saga story and done with that kind of Empire, Palpatine, First Order type concept. So little surprising to me that she would say this, but then not surprising going back and then looking at everything that has happened. It kind of makes sense now. And I just hope that they are really planning to lay a strong foundation. Like, I don't want to just see one Rey movie and that be it. Like, I want to see a bunch of cool stuff that becomes like its own era in Star Wars. If they're going to start again, I want to see them kind of really get into it and do a lot, and not just kind of leave fans in the lurch with like, okay, here's a movie or two, and then that's it. You don't get anything else.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. I think I agree with you, Chris, where it's like I understand it to an extent, but then I'm also left with so many questions of the direction of Star Wars, because the sequel trilogy it's a tough one to make a decision on. Like, if I was in some sort of boardroom executive office, we're talking about where we're going to go. It's like, do you push on with something that's caused a lot of friction for so many Star Wars fans? Do you bunker down on it and just go, we're going to do movies about the Rey movie, then we're going to go to Poe Dameron show, and then we're going to do an animated show in between it? Like, do we bunker down? Or like what you're saying with this quote, it sounds like they're saying not quite that and going, let's step on from what this was to something else. And I actually cannot tell if that's a great or not so great decision. Like, I think I, like many Star Wars fans, have a lot. I think I have a lot of questions. I just have a lot of questions about the sequel trilogy. I'm definitely not one to be like, I hate these movies, blah, blah, blah. But I think I just have a lot of questions around the storylines, which I think a lot of people have. And I feel like a lot of those questions would be appeased by shows and content that is around this era. And then they could really flesh some concepts out. Like, if we mentioned this a lot, the relationship of an impact the Clone Wars show had on the prequel trilogy, and how that really shaped a lot of people's view of the prequel trilogy, and even going from the prequel trilogy. Like, you think of Clone Wars in that package now of that era, of those movies, of those characters. And I really think that some content around the sequel trilogy, probably, like, obviously I think there's a lot more kind of fire around the sequel trilogy that there probably was around the prequels. Like, the prequels did get their hate, but I think it is such a hard question and decision around whether to move on. And this quote of Kathleen kind of being like, hey, we're turning the page. I love all those quotes where they're like, we're turning the page, or like the new chapter. Like it is a fairly generic kind of idea of being like, oh, we're going to step on. But yeah, it's interesting. But I'm very fascinated to see, when they acquired Star Wars, what they did with the sequel trilogy. We've had this complete 4 years now after the sequel trilogy and what that means, and what they do with that information. What have they learned from their movies, from their TV shows, from their type of storytelling, and what are they taking on board? And what are they using that experience of 10 years, over 10 years of owning Star Wars? What experience and lessons they've learned from these 10 years and how that chapter is going to look. But yeah, interesting. In summary, interesting.
Yeah. Oh, it's very, very interesting. And I think back to kind of during the sequel trilogy, something that I noticed was like you had The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, which kind of were just like in the marketing and how they were presented, it was just like, oh, these are just the next chapters in the Star Wars saga. And it wasn't until we got to The Rise of Skywalker where it was like the entire marketing of the entire movie was, this is the end of the Skywalker saga. This is the finale. It's the grand finale. It's over. It's done. Nothing else after this. And that was interesting to me because I'm like, it seems like, and you know, maybe you could totally build a conspiracy theory out of this and saying like, oh, well, you know, after the reaction to The Last Jedi and all this kind of stuff and all the fandom discourse, they kind of wanted to put a pin in this and stop it and just go forward and do something different after this. And with The Mandalorian literally, you know, the penultimate episode airing the night Rise of Skywalker came out, it almost was like this hand toss of just like, okay, now The Mandalorian is the big thing and the sequel trilogy is in the past. But now we've got this Rey Skywalker movie. Now we get these new movies that not only do we have the new Jedi Order movie, we have Jim Mangold's movie, and we have Dave Filoni's movie, and everything in The Mandalorian seems to be pushing towards the sequel trilogy. So the sequels are not going away. They're not putting them aside. They're not in what I think another section of Star Wars YouTube would put it, like trying to bury the sequels because nobody likes them. It's not like that. Obviously, they are kind of in this space of, okay, these movies are there. We know people love them. We're just going to keep going with this. So they're kind of doubling down on that and kind of keeping it going. But in the same way, the Skywalker saga, I guess they're looking at it as the story of the Skywalkers, as in Han, Luke, Leia, Anakin, all those guys. Now they're dead. They're gone. But Rey can continue. What that's going to entail. And we don't, I feel like I need to mention this. We don't know for sure if Rey is going to be the star of this movie, actually. Like,
what does that mean?
Go ahead.
What?
Do you want me to explain? I'll explain.
Yes.
Well, what my thing is just like they brought Daisy out on stage at Celebration. They said, oh, she's going to be in it. She's coming back. Jedi Master Rey Skywalker, all this kind of stuff. Boom, they did it. But they never, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, and this is not a rhetorical question. If there's a quote out there that I'm missing, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong here. But I don't think they ever explicitly said that Daisy Ridley is the #1 star of this movie. She is the Jedi Master of a new movie that's going to star other people, and those people might actually be the star. She might actually be in the more Luke Skywalker role. That's my question. I'm not saying that's the case. It could still be Daisy Ridley's movie, and I'll be happy either way. Just having Daisy Ridley back is great. That's all I want. But I'm curious, and I hope people aren't end up disappointed when they're like, oh, here's the new leads of Star Wars, and Rey is backing them up like Mark Harry, and Harrison did for Daisy back in the day. So that's a question that I have more than just a question and a warning, I should say.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question. That makes sense. Yeah.
So there you go. I don't know where this is going. Obviously we're still a good ways off from this. They just changed the schedule again, so who knows? But I'll give a shout out to Joel, because we don't give enough shout outs to Joel on this podcast.
We don't.
I believe it was him. I assume when I see Ion Cannon posting, it's most of the time him. But he said that like what all the talk that Kathleen Kennedy is talking about with this movie, she's talked more about this movie than she ever did about Rogue Squadron. So that's a
good point. That's a great point.
So that's a good point in the direction of just like, if you're skeptical about this movie happening or any of these movies happening, which fair enough, there's a lot of smoke here in regards to, okay, stuff's happening. And Kathleen Kennedy is talking about, they're talking about, these movies very much in detail and giving us very specific things. And there's some quotes were coming up from James Mangold that are pretty specific too in regards to his movie. So we'll see. But I feel like there's stuff happening. There's scripts, there's dates, there's stuff is gonna happen. So we shall see about that. Okay. No, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I keep seeing kind of dates flying around of, the script is done, they're gonna start filming soon or something like that. Which is exciting. I think, and again, I agree. I think we are definitely many more steps in front of this movie than we were with Rogue Squadron. That is a great point. Like, it feels like it's definitely happening. There's always that trope of worrying if something's going to get cancelled or shelved. But it feels good. It feels like this movie is moving along quite well.
Yeah. So speaking of which, there's been some stuff floating around that seemed to show that the movie was moving along a little too fast, maybe. Specifically, there was a synopsis that surfaced. I don't know where actually this was sourced from. I think it was from a website or something like that. And this is something that was reported. It may have even been reported by certain people in the fandom that maybe misrepresented it as being official when it wasn't. And actually, there have been other sources that have come out, some very reliable sources that have said that it is not, in fact, real. So if you happen, I'm not going to read the thing because you can find it anywhere. Also, it's fake. So why would I bother? But if you have read a synopsis, it's it's linked in the notes.
Is it?
So if you want to check it, it's on Star Wars News Net. Or should I read it? Do you want me to read it?
I feel like we should read it. Read it. Well, let's hear.
Okay. I'll read it. Jeez. Oh, gee, where the hell is it? Okay, here we go. let's dramatic reading time. Let's go.
All right,
Set roughly 15 years after Rey's victory over Palpatine and the end of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, the sequel delves into Rey's courageous endeavor to restore the Jedi Order, where she assumes the role of mentor to two promising young students, a girl and a boy. As their training progresses, it becomes evident that the girl possesses extraordinary abilities. Come on now. And is destined to emerge as the future leader. Release date, May 22nd, 2026. Walt Disney Studio, Motion Pictures. End quote.
Wow.
It's fake, by the way. It's fake. Okay, it's fake. Nobody clip this out and say this is the thing. It's fake. There's a typo in it. It says the girl possesses extraordinary abilities. Okay, I'm sorry. Disney Corporate's not going to do something stupid like that. At least I hope they wouldn't.
Well,
anywho.
Well,
any thoughts on that? Are we moving on?
Oh well, yeah. It's not true. Yeah, I don't believe it.
I mean,
sounds good though.
It sounds like a good story.
I'd watch it.
Maybe they'll see it and be like, let's do
that.
Idea. Yeah, the writer's just trying to figure out. It's Michael Art. Michael Art is writing this movie, and he's just like, what do I write? And that's it.
There you go. So okay, let's switch gears to 25,000 years into the past, or even actually more by the time of the sequels. James Mangold has been talking a lot about Indiana Jones, but even more so, he's been talking a lot about Star Wars, which is what we're concerned about on this podcast. And there's some really interesting interviews. One from a Variety, where it's I think actually Variety might actually be talking about this Happy, Sad, Confused interview. So I'm just going to skip the Variety stuff and go straight to the horse's mouth. Because James Mangold, actually just listened to this myself. It's a great interview. If you like podcasts, which you're listening to this, you probably do. Happy, Sad, Confused podcast is a great podcast. And James Mangold was on the latest episode, and he talked quite a bit about some stuff. He specifically, one of the interesting quotes that I thought I'll bring up first is about the time frame of this, and he talked about kind of his whole deal with he didn't want to be hampered by Easter eggs and connections, all this kind of stuff. He just kind of wanted to tell the story, and he pitched this to Lucasfilm, and they gave him an answer. And this is his quote. He says, when I talked to some of the Star Wars clerics that keep track of all these timelines, I was like, so when would this happen? And they're like, 25,000 years before episode 1. And I was like, oh, I was looking for some distance, but that's a lot of distance. I'll do it. I might find Charlton Heston in an abandoned subway station, but I'll do it. And he also says, the reality for me is that feeling of space, no pun intended, was something that I feel was really important, not to get away from fan service or the intricacies of what George has set up and dreamed of, but just to have the space to tell a story and just not be instantly encumbered to the bases of which to hit, which honestly, there's no way to explain it to folks other than say, like, it's a game of as we played like Twister. At a certain point, you're in a tangle because you're just trying to find ways to tell the story with so many constraints that you can't. So he was looking for a way to just kind of tell his own story without anything connected. So apparently this really is going to be a completely disconnected story. Hannah, any thoughts on this?
I don't know. I'm a very big fan of things that connect in Star Wars. Like, that's one of my favorite things, is the connective tissue that shows, books, and content bring to Star Wars. So it's hard to, I don't know, visualize or conceptualize what this movie could even be about. I get the whole the origin of the Jedi Order, but it's like he's going pretty hard on, like, I can't have it connected to anything. Like, I get if you don't want to make your movie about Anakin Skywalker, I get that. But it's like, well, like, do you like the Force? Like, how far are we going here? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it is still so elusive, this movie, that I don't think I have like concrete, like opinionated things to say about it, other than I like my connective tissue. And even though it's going to be years and thousands of years before, I think there are definitely like conceptual things of just specifically the Force that we can understand, that we could see represented in this movie that is connected. But yeah, it's still quite elusive for now.
Yeah, and the most, actually, I'll add this other little quote here that he asked, because he was asked about, if we'll hear the words midi-chlorian or Jedi in the movie. And he says, I don't want to make any guarantees one way or another, but it will be before the Jedi, meaning you might be experiencing something that might become Jedi. Sometimes, despite the fact that people make movies the other ways, I don't tend to think people brand themselves before they're actually found themselves. So you don't come up with a name for your organization before you understand what it is. So he's saying this is not the beginning of the Jedi. This is before the Jedi. This is maybe we won't even hear the word Jedi in this movie. Or, I'm not expecting to hear midi-chlorian, definitely, but maybe not even Jedi. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Well, okay. I haven't seen the movie Dune, but what I understand of it is it's quite kind of this ethereal, space, conceptual, symbolic movie.
It's a Star Wars ripoff. It's a Star Wars ripoff.
Okay, right. Like,
I'm joking. Before people go in the comments to rip me to shreds, I'm joking. Jeez.
But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this movie, like, hearing that, it's like, oh, like, what are we gonna be? What are we watching here? What are we watching here? Like, beings just like kind of floating around and humming and becoming light and dark. Like, I don't know. It's taken me a second to understand what he's getting at here, and I think what his goal is going to be for the movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what is that? What is that going to be?
Yeah, he earlier, I think it was a Celebration, described it as a quote biblical epic. And when I have you ever seen the movie 10 Commandments?
No,
Charlton
no,
Heston,
I don't think so.
classic
Maybe I have.
movie.
Is it like a really old movie?
Really old. I probably
I might have
50s, 60s. I mean, it's the story of
Yeah.
Moses. It's the complete.
Yeah, well,
like,
yeah,
like
yeah,
look,
know that. Yeah.
like I've been to church a lot. Anytime I hear somebody talking about Moses, I picture Charlton Heston. Like that's how iconic that movie is to me. And like it's a story, like it's his entire life story from, if you don't know, he's from where he's found in the river to where he does the parting thing with the river, like the whole thing. I'm assuming that's what he has in mind too. That's what I'm assuming is going to be maybe focus on maybe the first person to call themselves Jedi, maybe their discovery of the Force and their journey towards establishing something. Maybe there's some dude that lives on Octo and they find out they got abilities and then they go on to just, to create that first Jedi temple. I don't know. I'm thinking it'll be more in the same vein of the Ten Commandments, which is it spans a huge amount of time. It's not about, Star Wars movies are usually packed into a day or two, like really fast paced. I feel like this is going to be the life story of someone and something that's going to span maybe decades or maybe even hundreds of years. Could focus on multiple people. I don't know, but I like what he's saying. I mean, it is very interesting. Just like thinking of it, like what is like, there's so many things, like Star Wars is so many things, but there are fundamental things about Star Wars. Jedi is one of them. People, space wizards waving around glow sticks, that's kind of a fundamental part of Star Wars. If you take that out, what is Star Wars? And what is this movie going to be? I'm assuming it will end with something like that, but what do you do in the meantime? I'm very curious to see, like, what is this movie going to look like? How are we dealing with this, and what is the story?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, yeah, I agree. It's gonna be this. Yeah, I agree. I think I said all my thoughts before. Yeah. I just, yeah, spot on. I think you're right there.
No, that's fine. But yeah, it's crazy. But I'm interested in going back to that original Kathleen Kennedy quote about connections. I'm curious how the connections could go in regards to what could this guy be the one who wrote the first Jedi text, and that's what's Rey's reading. Like, is it
the Jedi like text, the sacred text? It's the sacred text. Don't burn them. How could you burn them? Anyway.
Oh,
God, I didn't realize we got one of those guys on the podcast all of a sudden. Jeez,
where did that come from?
Boy. Okay, so now that you're here, I want to bring up something that is something I really never thought they'd talk about, and it's James Mangold's Boba Fett movie. It's something I am pretty sure I'm pretty sure Kathleen Kennedy sometime recently denied this existed. Okay, I'm pretty sure
that means nothing.
Which, all due respect to Kathleen Kennedy, but just like the second time she's been caught trying to cover up something that clearly existed. So I'm not going to go there. All I'm going to say is that James Mangold was pretty open about this. And he said, quote, at this, he was just straight up asked about this thing. And he said, I quote, at this point, I was doing it. I was probably scaring the bleep out of everyone, but I was making much more of a borderline rated R single planet spaghetti Western. They probably would never have been able to embrace Baby Yoda if I had made it. So it didn't really belong in the world I was kind of envisioning.
Oh my God.
In a moment of corporate realignment for what happened with the Han Solo movie, they just suddenly decided they weren't making the pictures like that, and the opportunities in streamings presented themselves. I was just listening to Ennio Morricone all day, all night, typing away. I'm not sure what would have ever happened. I'm not sure if it was anyone's plans that I was thinking. End quote. So he wrote it. It was the rumor that we heard was absolutely true. The Boba Fett movie was happening. It's just what happened with Solo happened, and they diverted away from it, and here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why?
That's the thing, though. Are you mad? I'm assuming you're mad at this.
Well, I mean, it's just like, well, why can't anyone make a Boba Fett film? Like, why is it that Joe Johnston tried to make a Boba Fett film and he couldn't? And I don't really know what the explanation was for why Joe Johnston's Boba Fett film never happened. I don't even know what happened there, because that was like before Disney, I think, or right around the same time that Disney.
That was a big rumor in like 2010, 2011.
Yeah, that was
when
before
Joe
Disney.
Johnston was like campaigning for it, and people were like, "Yeah, do us." Back when the idea of a Star Wars movie was just foreign, like a new Star Wars movie. Like, they're not going to do more Star Wars movies, and then like, oh, Joe Johnston's like, "I'll do it. Lucasfilm, hire me. I'll do this," and of course it still hasn't happened. I would still love to see that.
So there was that, and then obviously there's Josh Trank's Tin Can, and that was all Josh Trank's fault for being an idiot. So I know who to blame for. No,
no. He got sick. Remember, I was there at the panel. He just got sick. He had a bad day. Yeah,
he got sick the next day after making some choices. That's what happened. That's how it works. So that one I know who to blame for, but it still sucks. It still sucks because, Simon Kinberg, like, we tried with the dude. He tried. He gave him a shot, and bad choice. It didn't work out. And they should have given it to someone else. That's what they should have done. They should have just let Simon Kinberg do it or something like that. So there's that. And then it wasn't a movie, but it was Star Wars 1313, which I think was supposed to have some Boba Fett in it, and that didn't happen. So are we to hear that? And the Star Wars Underworld show, I would be shocked if that didn't have any Boba Fett in it either. And that didn't happen because that's one of the things that Disney did not continue, along with Star Wars Detours and the Clone Wars, for a little bit until people got really freaked out over it, and they did. So how many? That's 4 Boba Fett projects that were starting to be worked on or rumored or campaigned for or whatever that all didn't make it. So are we hearing again that there's a 5th one, that there's another one that what might have happened and didn't? Like, I mean, I'm glad we got the Book of Boba Fett, but I'm not satisfied. I want more of those like peak Boba Fett, dark time stories, and that's what I think all of these would have been, and we still haven't gotten it yet. What the heck?
It almost sounds like this could have been the way he's talking. He's talking like, oh, it wouldn't have fit with Baby Yoda. It sounds like this was kind of it sounds like a parallel like thought with The Mandalorian. It feels like didn't Jon Favreau like that was the original idea for The Mandalorian, that it was going to be a Boba Fett show, and they're like, no, let's do something else, and then they came back around to Boba Fett.
What is happening? Like, okay. First of all, they have to tell us that they have to completely change Asajj Ventress's character because it's not going to fit with Asajj Arsing.
You're talking about Arsing. Yeah.
They're going to completely change Arsing's character because it's not going to fit with Asajj Ventress's character arc in the Clone Wars. And so at first they do that, and that makes absolutely no sense because we're talking about a universe where they couldn't get the same actor back to play Adi Gallia and Revenge of the Sith. So they decided they were just going to put another actor in the same outfit and say it's her cousin. Like that, they pulled stuff like that in this franchise, and yet they're not going to have one of the most interesting, gray Force use characters from the expanded universe come into the Clone Wars with that. And then there's this whole thing about like, well, we can't have 2 Mandalorians in Star Wars. What? Bo-Katan, there's Sabine Wren, like there's Jango Fett, there's Boba Fett, there's Din Djarin, there's the armor, there's Gar Saxon. There's so many Mandalorians. Why can't you have a movie about a guy who's kind of sort of a Mandalorian, kind of sort of not? And then also a show about a Mandalorian in a completely different era. Like I don't understand what these
it is bizarre because it really does sound like all these decisions were like they look too similar. Like that feels like the only reason why they've decided not to pursue things is like the Mandalorian. Well, in the past few years, the Mandalorian looks too much like Boba Fett. We can't do this. But
what
they did do Book of Boba
what
Fett.
he's saying here is this like they got cold feet, like they didn't want to do any more quote unquote standalone anthology movies after Solo. So that's why this didn't get made.
That's
but then,
annoying, man.
why? But then why? If that's the case, then why didn't it just get adapted into TV? I don't know. Maybe Mangold didn't want to do that. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's way off. But I mean, I don't know. The way Mandalorian was marketed early on, not what it became. What it was kind of like more hard edged, like definitely not R-rated, but like definitely more spaghetti western stuff like that.
Look at the era that was. Like you had like Logan, for example, come out, in that decade, and your Deadpool come out in that decade. And like you had Daredevil come out on television on Netflix in that decade. Like that was the time to do the R-rated Boba Fett film. So
I like Lucasfilm today is like they wouldn't let like Andor have enough bombs. So I still don't think they would be sold on anything R-rated.
Was I here? Maybe that was the week I was away. But did you guys talk about the $250 million budget for Andor?
I don't remember.
I don't remember talking about that myself. But then I've been away a few weeks too.
I mean, you want to talk about it? Let's talk about it.
I was just thinking about projects. But you saw that report come out. Like it was like the highest budgeted Disney Plus show to date with $250 million into Andor.
Yeah.
Did you guys see this report?
I think I did see. I didn't know like in relation to other shows. But I definitely heard about the very big budget, which shows
that is such a large budget for such a random show. And I know I'm not the biggest like fan of Andor, but I appreciate what it does and its genre. But like, how bizarre! What a bizarre choice there. What a random thing to go all in on. And just go back to Boba Fett. I have so many thoughts right now. Oh my god. The Boba Fett show. It's really funny that we're counting all these cancelled like Boba Fett ideas. But then one of the main issues with the book of Boba Fett, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun and entertaining. But critically, it did feel very rushed. It felt like this was just like a rendered previs of what the story could be. Of like it was kind of random and it felt rushed and it felt a little under budget and it was kind of random. It was like we had all these stories sitting with all these different people for years, and then it kind of came out of the blue. Anyway, that's many thoughts in one comment, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I just think if they're gonna do a standalone story about Han Solo, a character who has 3 movies about him, and then also was featured very, very heavily in a 4th one that was coming out. Had just come out. They're gonna do that, then it would make sense that you'd think that a story about a character that's more mysterious, that has less stories about him, especially in live action, would kind of do better than that, or just as well. So.
Well, I think the difference between Han and Boba is the fact that like Han, and part of like why Solo was so controversial is just like people have very specific expectations and like know who Han is, and like you're not, they want him to be like Harrison Ford. They want him to be like that character, whereas Boba Fett, you go anywhere they want. There's so many people that were back then were like, which I never agreed with. It's just like, maybe he just dies and someone else picks up the mantle and somebody else is Boba Fett, or, he never takes his helmet off, or he always takes his helmet off, like what happens in the show. A lot of different ways you could do it. I think people's interpretation of that character is so broad that leads to, where do we actually start with this? Where do we actually begin with actually structuring the story? And I think, I liked Boba Fett. I didn't love it as much as I want to. I think one of the reasons why I want a season 2 is I just would like a show about Boba Fett that is 100% about Boba Fett. Just me. It's just me.
Boba Fett, where?
What the heck is
Boba
this?
Fett. Boba Fett. Oh man, yeah. So I don't know. At some point, we'll get the Boba Fett movie. I don't know. 5 years, 10 years, 20. Oh. I guess Dominic's back.
Hey, back. Hey. Go turn the hockey on. Hey, yeah. What is it? I don't know. I can't think of what Tom says.
God.
Hey, the Blue Jays just scored. Hey.
It's a goal.
Yeah.
What?
Say?
Apparently,
goal for
when
the
I
Blue
hear
Jays.
Dominic talk and when Hannah hears Dominic talk, it's completely different things. Completely different.
Yeah. I don't know how to do a Canadian accent.
Yeah, I love the. Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm a Canadian. Yeah, maple syrup, maple leaves,
Tom's
hockey.
definitely not that happy.
Yeah.
He's not that upbeat. How do I do a dog?
It depends on. Yeah. Oh, is this all we got to say about the Boba Fett movie, or are we done with this?
Yeah. Hilarious. Yeah.
Just kind of semi-disappointed, semi-confused, semi-bewildered by all this.
Bewildered. That's
But
a
James,
word.
maybe somehow he'll figure out to figure Boba Fett into the James Mangold movie. He'll have time traveled there or something. 25,000 years in the past. Anyway, something completely different and a good segue here, because you just mentioned it, Hannah. Andor is filming season 2 right as we speak. Like literally, they're in London back at Canary Wharf. We got photos of Denise Gow and Anton Lesser. Also, of course, Did Ramiro and
Poggle the
Major
Lesser?
Partagas.
Did you say? Was that Poggle the Lesser?
That's absolutely what's not what I said. But we'll go with it. Whatever. Yeah, Poggle the Lesser confirmed for Star Wars Andor.
Filming.
We're gonna see that. Yay. Yay. But no, we got Canary Wharf, more photos of the ISB doing their thing, which is fun, and we will not show those photos here because Lucasfilm don't hate us. So we don't get sued.
Wait, who
but
was the name?
The
Who
bigger
was the name that had the? Sorry, should I let you finish the bit?
Anton Lesser, actor Anton Lesser, who did not play Poggle Lesser. Anton Lesser, who did not play Poggle Lesser. For the
son
record.
of Poggle the Lesser.
Yeah, go with that. Let's just go with that. Yeah, that's good old daddy you Poggle Lesser. Here you go.
All right, that's my Poggle Lesser impression.
That's pretty good.
That was good.
Thank you.
That was really good. What is with you and Star Wars aliens? I don't get it. How
Tell
you're
me
so good
about
at
it.
this.
I'm really good at it. Thank you. Anyway, I'll let you
Well,
finally
there you go.
finish this announcement. I'm so sorry.
I would appreciate it one day. I feel like an hour from now, I'm just like, I'm trying to say this thing, and Hannah just all in the microphone. Okay, let's just keep going. You broke me officially.
Okay, all right.
So the big news is not Poggle Lesser in Andor. Okay, that's not the big news. The big news is another prequel connection. So Andor crews have been spotted in Haver Castle in where is this at? It's in is it in Italy or is it somewhere else?
Sounds British.
Doing this research. In Haver Castle, a location that George Lucas used for shooting the Phantom Menace in Naboo. So this is
the one in Italy.
Okay.
No, wait.
No,
this is in London. This is in London, southeast of London.
That's what I'm trying. Okay, this is London. See,
it's southeast of London. I googled it. Yeah.
Remember which one? Okay, there you go. So this is a location in London, which is most of the Star Wars productions are in London, so it doesn't make sense. But it's the fact that this was specifically used for scenes in the Phantom Menace for Naboo. So the question is this actually are we actually going to Naboo in Andor, which doesn't feel out of the realm of possibilities personally. But actually a shout out to Star Wars News that they actually make a point that Black Park, also in London, was used for Takodana in The Force Awakens, and then they returned to it for Andor, but they used it for Kenari. So sometimes they use the same locations for different planets, so it doesn't really mean that. But I really want to believe they're going to Naboo in Andor. That would be really cool.
The Naboo. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be great.
I can't wait for Boss Nass's cameo in Andor.
Oh my god, imagine. Oh, that would be the ultimate thing.
Okay.
That would be the thing that would make
Okay,
me
Hannah, I'm gonna set you up for this. Okay, get ready. Wouldn't you rather give it all for something real?
he has to say that line now in season 2. It's Boss Nass saying that. Lisa like this. Oh,
wouldn't you select to give it all for something real? I am not going to do that again. Okay, I'm not.
Oh my word. We have to have all the bloody the orb things that they use as they're like and like the things they ride. Effects. Yeah. The guy with the trumpet.
The boomers? The boomers or
the big boomers. And the guy there, the guy with the trumpet who's like, let's go. We need that guy back. Oh man, this is going off the rails, dude.
So Andor, Poggle Lesser in Andor on Naboo. Get ready. Right?
Yes. Oh, I got to tweet that. Oh, that's awesome.
That's something else.
Wow.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
Well, okay. Any more thoughts on this? Anyone want to place their bets on this is Naboo or probably just another random planet that we don't know about?
Naboo. I reckon we're kind of in the territory. I know. What's his Tony Henderson? What's his name? Tony Gilroy. That's his name.
Tony Henderson.
Where did I get Henderson from?
That's a new one.
Yeah, it's gonna be close. Who was I thinking of?
And here's the showrunner for Star Wars Andor, Tony Henderson.
Tony Soprano.
But yeah, he's came out and was like, "Oh, I don't like connecting things to Star Wars." But you know what? I reckon they've been like, we better go somewhere we kind of know. So yeah, I my money's on this is Naboo. I think that would be cool.
I would be very eager to know what's going on with with Imperial era Naboo, considering we've always had that connection with being Palpatine's home planet and what that means for them. And I don't know, it's just very fascinating to think about, what going there. I think there could be a very good reason for maybe there's a rebellion happening there. Like kicking it back to old Battlefront 2 from 2005. There's a whole plot line where the Naboo queen goes rogue and you have to go in and assassinate her. If anybody remembers that, that would be cool.
And I do know there's quite a bit in canon books today of the Imperial reign on Naboo and what that kind of looks like. And I think, logically thinking about it, the Andor political exploring the control of the Empire, I think Naboo from book canon would be a great place to see because it is that political, well-known political system to us, the audience, and also in universe. So I think it would make a lot of sense to see what's happening there, and I don't know, maybe would Cassian go there for something? Would it find someone there? Yeah, I think it'd be cool.
Apparently, there's a shot in the trailer which I have not seen that's leaked of Cassian in a real fancy tuxedo thing that he's like sneaking into, like doing some kind of a covert mission into a swanky party. What if that's on Naboo?
Mon Mothma's party? Oh, that could be on Naboo. Oh, yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Maybe Mon Mothma's on Naboo. Maybe that's why they're there. Mon Mothma's doing some sort of political party thing at Naboo. Oh my god.
Come on. If there's politics and Naboo involved, why wouldn't Jar Jar be there? Come on, Tony Gilroy.
He's got to be
give us what we want.
Juggling plates for Andor to escape. He's juggling plates in the back there.
Hey, I believe in you, Tony Gilroy. I believe in you. Make it happen. Make it happen. Tony Henderson. There you go. Love Tony Henderson. Okay. A couple more things. We've got an update from Ahsoka, or a forthcoming one. This is going to be happening at the Essence Festival of Culture in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is not too far from me. I wish I could go to this. June 29th through June 3rd. They actually haven't specifically said when this is happening, but apparently it's going to be a, quote, special look at Ahsoka. That's going to be appearing at this. So, and apparently Rosario Dawson is going to be at the event. So I think she's going to be promoting actually the Haunted Mansion movie, which she's also in. So going to be interested to see where this goes. And is this going to be just like, is it going to be behind the scenes reel? Is it going to be a clip? Is it just going to be a little teaser? Could it be another full-fledged trailer? Because this is happening as of today. This started today. So Indiana Jones is coming out today, Friday, Thursday, whatever you want to look at it. Once it's done, I think maybe once Indy is out of the way, we could see a marketing push like full on for Ahsoka. Maybe we'll get another trailer in the next couple days. That feels like a natural progression.
And another thing is thinking about the Andor promo stuff. And they released that clip. It was like a clip of Cassian and what's his face? Risk It All guy. That guy.
Luthen.
Yeah, that guy, whatever, him.
That guy.
That guy. And they were like chatting in the warehouse early on in the season. They're like having a chat about where did you come from? Who are you? And then like they just have that chat, and then they release that clip. I can see that working for this show, and I have a feeling that they'll do that with Ahsoka. I think I don't know if it will be this weekend, to be honest. It could be this weekend or closer to the date, of like very similar thing of like maybe in the first episode, like Ahsoka and Sabine just like standing in a room being like, what do we do now? And then Ahsoka's like, we gotta go somewhere else now. And Sabine's like, I'll come. And she'll be like, we'll work together. And then like, it's just gonna be like just that very elusive general like team up clip. You know what I mean? It could be something like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, in some ways I feel like I would prefer a clip over a trailer, because I feel like we've already got that great trailer that's out that got a lot of views and like genuinely one of the best trailers we've had in quite some time. Like, how do you top that?
Yeah.
So why not just like, hey, give us something, give us a 30-second clip that just kind of like, conveys the tone and what we can expect from this show, as opposed to like kind of a palate cleansing thing where you're just kind of getting all this kind of stuff thrown at your face. You can actually kind of soak in like a moment between these two characters and kind of give you a feel for what the show actually is going to be. So I don't know. I would really like it if it was a clip. I think it would be a great thing. I think it's probably inevitable that we'll get at least one more trailer, if not 6 smaller trailers, because that's how Disney rolls with these things. But I would like them to mix it up a little bit, like you're saying. I think the Andor clip, which was really cool to see that in front of Rogue One in the theater, which was really cool. Seeing that whole sequence was great. I would do that again. Put a clip from Ahsoka in front of Indy. Why not do that? That would be cool.
Imagine. Wow, pretty weird.
But yeah, keep on the lookout for that. Keep on the lookout for that. Interesting to see where that goes. From the premiere of one show to the incoming finale, the final season of another show, The Bad Batch season 3 is coming at some point, Michelle Ang, who plays Omega, is shared on Instagram, actually an Instagram story, a crew gift that she got. And it's really cute. It's basically, and I'll throw it up on the screen. You should be able to find this for you audio listeners.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a maquette of a hunter's helmet from the Bad Batch.
Nice.
And it says, "For your service in the Bad Batch." And so people are speculating now that this could mean that perhaps Michelle Ang and Dee are done voice work for the show. Maybe this is kind of their swan song, and which kind of tracks with what we know about animation and stuff like that. That, do we have a release date for Bad Batch season 3? Do we know?
I know
that?
it's next year. I don't. I would assume it's early next year. To be honest,
I would assume too.
And I don't know much about the process of animation in terms of where does the voice acting come in? Like, how much editing and rendering and work is kind of needed after voices are done. You know what I mean? Like, or is it like the first thing that happens? Is it the middle thing? Is it the last thing? Because that can kind of tell us
I
sometime.
could be completely wrong here. Before what I can remember back from, like, they didn't release a ton of behind the scenes info about the Clone Wars, but what they did, I ate up, and I did as with a lot of people. And I remember them saying that I think it starts with the voice work. They obviously script it, and they get the people in the booth, and they get them to say all the lines and do the whole thing, and then they animate to their voices. And at that point, because I think I swear Ashley Eckstein probably has more than once talked about how, like, Ashley Eckstein has talked more than once about, like, she didn't know, a lot of these actors don't know what their characters look like until after they voice them, and they really just have like a mock head. They don't have a moving image to like base their performance on. So I would imagine that like this doesn't necessarily mean that like they're starting on the animation. I'm thinking it could be like in film terms, a reshoot, or just could be like, ADRing something. I would imagine everything is like the animation is well on its way to being completed at this point in the game. Even if it is coming next year, still probably a lot of work to be done on this. Or maybe they just I don't know.
Could this go back to season 1 with what it did? Could this be the May 4th big thing? May 4th is going to be the Bad Batch season 3. Could be that.
They've been really hard on trying to get something out every May 4th. They're trying to make it kind of a big thing. So that feels very realistic. I think, especially since it started at May 4th. We got Aftermath May 4th. A couple years ago.
When's Acolyte? Acolyte's meant to, because next year we're meant to have Acolyte. We'll have probably this. Well, we'll have the spillover of Skeleton Crew first. That will be in January, assuming that it releases in December. And then we've got Acolyte, Tales of the Jedi, and Bad Batch to have those 3 things to have in that year. So, yeah, it just depends on what order that will be.
It seems the sequence of things are we're getting Ahsoka next, Skeleton Crew after that, Acolyte after that, and maybe Bad Batch after Acolyte. Maybe Acolyte will be early to mid 2024, and then Bad Batch. Or maybe they'll just drop Bad Batch in the middle of Acolyte, because that makes sense, right?
I mean, there could be overlap. That's happened before.
And then we'll have nothing right now, and then in a few months we'll have like, oh my gosh, there's too many Star Wars things. There's 2 Star Wars episodes dropped on Wednesday. Oh my god. Oh boy. But don't put it past them.
I don't.
So yeah. So needless to say, I'm sad to see the Bad Batch go. I've enjoyed the show. I think it's been one of the better shows we've gotten in this new era. And as much as I kind of saw season 3 being the last one coming, doesn't make it any easier. I think this next season, I think it's going to be great, but it's going to be bittersweet, because I think this might be one of the best seasons of Star Wars TV, and it's going to be the last one of that one. But yeah, going to be really interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think even though I was a bit mixed on season 2, I think this is gonna kind of be a blind, like, ooh, this was gonna be a really good season, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, this show was actually really great. Very good stuff.
Right. Yeah. Okay. One more thing, and I know we don't talk a lot about collecting on this show, because I am a recovering collectoraholic, specifically in the things we're about to talk about. But there was something interesting that happened today. We got some new reveals of some new figures. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, has been out for many, many months. So much so we've had multiple Lucasfilm productions. One Lucasfilm production comes out tonight. There's no figures for that, okay? There's things for the thing from months ago. We got new Obi-Wan Kenobi figures today revealed, and I don't know when these are going to come out, and I definitely don't know when they're going to show up in my Walmart. So I'm not betting on actually being able to buy these things anytime soon. But what's interesting is the fact that we got a proper Darth Vader,
oh wow,
kind of sort of unmasked from things, and it's quite beautiful, I must say. Really, really good.
Gee, I might get that. That looks
this
awesome.
This is the kind of figure that I'm like, I'm not collecting these anymore. I'm not collecting this anymore. Maybe I'll collect this one, because it's nice. It's really nice.
That's awesome.
But the kicker here is that the other figure they released alongside this, and this specifically is branded Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, if you can see it on here, is Commander Appo. Now,
what?
If my memory serves me right,
my word,
where the hell was Commander Appo in Obi-Wan Kenobi? Can anybody tell me this?
Is he the poor clone we see? Didn't Appo die in Revenge?
See, I think what's going on here, it took me a bit because people were making fun of this on Twitter. Fair enough. But I think what's happened here is that they have canonically retconned Appo into the Order 66 scenes from Obi-Wan, from the Reva flashback scenes, or maybe even some other stuff. And they're saying that Appo, because if you remember your galactic history, Appo is part of the 501st. Anakin splits the 501st. Rex goes off with Ahsoka. Appo is then put in charge of the 501st, and that's what happens when Order 66 goes down. Appo is the guy in charge when they go into the Jedi Temple. So I think that's what they're trying to do here. It seems like they would just do, it's just a 501st clone trooper. But no, they're specifically naming him. This is Commander Appo, which is a character that's been around for many, many years. That really hasn't got a whole lot of attention. He showed up for 1 second in the Umbara arc, and that's about it. So people were very confused by this, and I just thought it was just interesting that we have a Commander Appo figure finally. I don't know if this is the first one, but here we are.
That's pretty awesome.
Nice. It's pretty cool.
Because it's interesting that I literally was just in Walmart yesterday, and there's a figure that looks like Lonnie from Andor. It's an Andor branded figure. It looks like Lonnie, but it's not a named guy. It's just Imperial dude or whatever else. And I was like, why do you make a figure of just some random, you're making a figure for just a non-named character? Makes no sense to me. But now they're fixing that now, which is interesting. I was just bewildered for a second, being like, Appo is in there? So now I have to rewatch Obi-Wan to figure out which one is Appo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think I remember it, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. I think that's all the news. I think we conquered it, and I think we can finally move on to perhaps everyone's favorite section of the show, the Ask SWU section. This is where we read comments from, obviously, down in the comments below on YouTube. For those of you who sent in super chats, we'll get to you shortly. And also, in between shows, if you would like to submit a comment, you can't join us live. You can go to the Star Wars Underworld Discord, scroll down the Star Wars Underworld podcast section, look for the Ask SWU little, what do you call it? The channel, I guess. And you can write a question in there, and several people have. Why don't we want to lead off with the super chats first? Or one of the super chats?
Yes, let's do that.
Let's do it.
Let's see, where are they? So we got a one from first one. Thank you, Joel Javis. For this one, he says, think of any Disney Plus Star Wars shows are vastly spread out to make sure there are no major gaps due to the writer's strike. So Joel is thinking about the writer's strike, which
he's like preparing us.
Well, I think me and Joel talked about this privately, but the whole idea is that they might be. Disney knows that that not right now, but maybe in 6 months to a year, because nothing is being written right now, that there's going to be a gap in the production, and they instead of releasing the Acolyte, say the plan was that we're going to get Skeleton Crew at Christmas and Acolyte early 2024. Maybe they would delay Acolyte out to, summer or fall 2024 to kind of widen that gap, just so they have something to look forward to, and they still would have Bad Batch or whatever else they're working on kind of in the chamber. I mean, they've got Andor, which is filming right now, so that could obviously be something. It would be weird. They shouldn't do that, okay? They should pause production and just let Tony Gilroy come back and do his thing, but they might not. And with that being said, it could just be, they're just going to they know things going to be delayed, so they're just going to wait things out. So that's the unfortunate side of this, is that, Disney is playing the long game and playing against the writers, who are literally the reason that any of this stuff exists, which sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, great to hear from you, Joel. And I'll switch over to one of our things on the Discord, because we got one from Kajira. Always great to hear from them, and they have a question. They say, my little headcanon for the Ahsoka show. The Ahsoka show has been, the Ahsoka show is really a mouthful. I'm just going to say that, okay? My little headcanon for the Ahsoka show that's been burning in my mind for a while now. What if she and Sabine were able to find Ezra and he ends up having amnesia instead? How could an amnesiac Ezra, is that how you pronounce that? Amnesiac Ezra, play a role in the series if that headcanon were to come true?
Ooh.
So Ezra, who lost his memory, how could that play out? Any ideas?
That would not be like too surprising, like, because you don't know what he's been through. So it would kind of be almost. It kind of almost would be a way to like explain to the audience what's going on, because we had that conversation before about, like, do you need to watch Rebels before watching the Ahsoka show? And I was saying, like, well, I don't think so, because I think they'll find a way to explain everything and like dialogue or exposition or something that you need to know about the characters and their backstories as the show progresses. But this would actually be a good way to do it, because if they have to explain in the story to Ezra what's going on because he's lost his memory, then it's also going to explain to the audience what's going on, and then you solve that problem very handily. So this is almost actually like this headcanon that Kajira has, like, is almost like kind of brilliant as a storytelling mechanism to kind of catch the audience up to what's going on.
It also would be kind of a twist, because we're kind of in a Luke Skywalker and Last Jedi situation with this, in regards to, we know Ezra's gone. We know he's somewhere out in the unknown regions, but we don't know why. And we don't know why he hasn't come back yet. And obviously they could come up with some reason. Maybe he's being held prisoner by Thrawn. Maybe he's trapped somewhere, something like that. Or maybe he hit his head and he lost his memory and he hasn't come back to them because he doesn't know how. That could be a proper way to kind of do that. And I like your idea of this, like, yeah, that would be a good way to kind of convey what's happened before. Because you could literally have Sabine going like, "Oh, Ezra, remember when we were hanging out and you and Zeb stole some Melu Run fruit on Lothal? You remember those times, old friend?" Like, you can have situations like that. It could be that on the nose, but who knows? It would be something. This is going to be kind of an unprecedented series because there's so much history, yet it has to be presented in a way that people, albeit most of the audience or a large chunk of the audience, will have not seen Rebels and won't know any of it going in.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's I'm down for this. This is my headcanon too.
Yeah, I like that. So it could be interesting. Okay. Up next, we've got Jesse Bennett, good friend, who sends in a good super chat, and they say, "How long before we see another Gungan in live action?" Here it is, right on the money here, Jesse. And will
Very
it be
soon.
comic relief or serious character?
Probably
Serious character. It's gonna be a serious character.
It's funny. I just thought about this the other day because I started replaying this game for the first time in a very long time. But in the PS2 version of The Force Unleashed, not the Xbox or the PlayStation, the PS2 version, which is a completely different version of that game. If you go to Bespin, there is this really whacked out, crazy Gungan who is like a total badass, is like missing an ear and an eye and all this kind of stuff. He's like this bounty hunter dude. Mm-hmm. And I would love it just like to get a character like that on screen. That's like the antithesis of Jar Jar. Just like someone who is like not comic relief, who is this like bloodthirsty killer, bounty hunter, whatever. I would love that. I think unfortunately, Gungans kind of got put into that kind of typecast role. They all kind of look and talk the same and whatever else. Like that's not how racists work, guys. Like, maybe a Gungan got raised somewhere else besides Oto Gunga, and they act differently, talk differently. That would be interesting. It's interesting storytelling. So I would like this very much. I would love just a serious version, or just not over the top, just a normal character. Just someone who is part of things. It's not broad attention. Put one in Andor. I'm serious. Not Jar Jar. Put a normal Gungan in Andor, and just it's not brought attention to. It's just there.
Who's that? Who's that Gungan that we meet in the Blue Shadow Virus episode? Like Nelly or something?
Peppy Bow.
Peppy Bow.
Peppy. Oh, we gotta see Peppy. Come on.
Yeah, I'm surprised that was all
Peppy.
we saw of that. I mean,
Like
Jar Jar had this thing with Peppy Bow, and then he just like a cold player moved on to that random queen in the Mace Windu
Queen
episode.
Julia.
Yeah. God,
Julia.
Jar Jar is a Criff boy. That's what he is. He's a Criff boy.
What?
Criff boy. Criff boy Jar Jar.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Wait. You know what? This is Criff boy Jar Jar.
Yeah,
right
there
here.
we go. There he is. That's after Peppy said no to him. I don't know. Peppy. But you know what? Well, if we're going to Naboo and Andor, we got to see like in the most intense, serious moment of like Andor being stuck somewhere on Naboo, like Peppy like pops out into the scene. Is like, "Do you need help?" And then they ride the weird like horse tick, weird flea-looking mammals that she like herds, and then that's how they escape. There we go. Andor season 2 wrapped up. Boom.
One of my few viral tweets was one suggesting that Luth and Rael should share a scene with what's her name from The Mandalorian, Amy Sedaris' character. So
Pelimoto.
I
Oh my gosh.
Pelimoto. Just because I think those characters are so much just opposite ends of the spectrum. But I think Jar Jar might be even better. Or just any Gungan.
Absolutely. 100%.
So yeah. We shall see. We shall see. I mean, we already know Poggle the Lesser and Jar Jar are going to be in Andor season 2 on Naboo. That's confirmed. That's confirmed.
Confirmed.
Absolutely. Okay. So here, switching gears a little bit. Martin Ingelston, who says, who would you fan cast in the new Rey movie, and what role would you have them play? Jedi, soldier, bad guy, etc. So who are we fan casting? Who's an actor, actress, otherwise, that you want to see in a Star Wars movie that you'd love to see and things? I have one in mind, but does anyone else have any thoughts? Or I can give mine now if you need some time to think about it.
Give yours, Ben.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go back to an old favorite. I'm gonna go back to one that we love here at the Star Wars World Podcast, one that we campaigned for many years. We maybe even believed that he was going to be in Star Wars for a very long time. And I still say he would be great. He's in every other freaking franchise, so why not bring in Benedict Cumberbatch finally? That would be great.
That was going to be my answer. That was what I was going to say.
Sure.
For anyone else. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I was literally going to say the same thing, dude. Yes.
I mean, Hannah, we share the same brain. Let's just.
That's true. We have the same opinion always. So yeah, 100%.
That would be pretty cool.
What
would he be playing?
I think I automatically think villain, because he's kind of got just, I don't know, the ability to pull off a villain very well. But he could be a very like innocent, inquisitive, but he's kind of a different age. He's kind of a bit older now. I don't know. I would actually love to see him as some sort of hero.
That would be fascinating. Like a detective, like Tan Devo's grandson. It's elementary, Devo.
I feel like I don't want to see him as a Jedi, because I feel like that's too close to Doctor Strange. And I also feel like
Doctor Strange is a bit of a gray character. I'm sorry.
He'd be a gray Jedi then.
He's the gray. Finally we get a gray Jedi in Star Wars, and it's played.
I mean,
by
I will
Dr.
contend
Strange.
that Doctor Strange is the villain of this last Spider-Man movie. He is the villain in that movie.
I mean, he kind of was in the last Doctor Strange movie too. I'm just saying.
You're right. He is a villain.
So maybe he is, but again, he's done the villain thing. He did it in Star Trek. He has the deep voice, menacing
Lord of the Rings.
stature. That too. I forgot about the Smaug. Jeez. So I don't know. Like Stormtrooper number 3, maybe. I don't know. It's still got Stormtroopers in the post sequels.
Yeah.
I think he's Grand Admiral Thrawn's son. Because that was the original. Was the original casting. Was he was going to be Grand Admiral Thrawn? That was the original thought that people had.
Well, you know what I would actually love to see him play is some sort of. Did someone say this? Chief of the new government. Well, kind of along that thought of he's some sort of like king or governor of a planet, and it's like everything's pretty desolate. Like the galaxy is just kind of exhausted of everything, and like his character is trying to like bring not balance, but like he's not a force sensitive, but he's trying to do good in the galaxy, and then he kind of teams up with someone who is a Jedi to like do something or bring something down. I could see that happen.
It would be interesting if like we catch up with Rey's Jedi Order, and like there's a Benedict Cumberbatch is playing like the Chancellor, and it's like he's super shady, and you're like, oh, it's the prequels all over again. It's Palpatine all over again. But then he's like secretly a good guy. Like that's the twist to it.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Who knows? But that's that. I guess that's our collective vote. Benedict Cumberbatch and Star Wars.
Yeah.
There you go.
100%.
Oh, well, wait, hold on. Wait, I didn't say that. Wait, what did
Okay,
you
well, say yours then.
Okay,
Say it.
well, what's yours?
Anya Taylor-Joy as Mara Jade. Let's go.
Choice Mara Jade.
Okay, all right. Okay,
That's
all
what
right.
I
Okay,
want.
I'll take it. I'll take
Or
it.
if Mara Jade's a bit older, it would be why is Natasha the only thing coming into my head right now? Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, yeah. What is happening? I was just thinking about Scarlett Johansson. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to mention that after Chris stops
It
speaking.
depends.
I'm
It
gonna be
depends on
like,
how
oh,
old.
Scarlett
Because
Johansson.
I think Scarlett. Hold on. Let me see. Scarlett Johansson is now 38, and Anya Taylor-Joy is 27. Yeah. So it depends on if you're going for like a 20s Mara Jade or like a 30s Mara Jade. If she's a bit older already, you're not just first introducing her, but maybe she already, has moved on a bit in life and has had some stories already happen to her, then I think Scarlett Johansson would be a good option for her. But then if she's kind of younger, then I would go with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Boba Fett?
I know. Like, I know ScarJo's a big name, and it's probably going to be a popular fan cast. But like, I genuinely think she would be a good Mara Jade. Like, genuinely.
Yeah. Yeah.
She has the personality. That's just how reading Heir to the Empire, I could picture that. So,
yeah,
hell yeah, let's do it. Mara Jade and Benedict Cumberbatch playing. Who knows? Anywho,
Mara Jade.
Up next,
Comments are important.
There you go.
I put one where there wasn't. Right. I omitted one where there was. That's what happened.
Oh boy.
Oh jeez.
Up next, we got another one, another super chat from Jesse Bennett, who says, if you had to add / change one piece of Star Wars lore in Star Wars, what would it be?
Oh, yeah. I know.
Genuinely. Oh. Okay, Hannah, go with it, because I'm confused. I'm not sure about this.
So, okay. So I would love to see, I would love that, well, not even to see, I would love the lore to be, which was his question, that the whole Revenge of the Sith movie happens and Anakin's like, I dreamt you were going to die in childbirth, Padme. I am going to learn how to save you. He goes on this massive path. The movie's pretty much the same. And Palpatine's like, I'll teach you. And then he goes down there and things are not good. But what happens is it doesn't come to fruition. So Padme doesn't die in childbirth, at least. And she doesn't die and it doesn't come true. He still imagined it, dreamt it, and like was like, this is going to happen. But that was like, it would be like that was a force dream that Palpatine made him have. So he went on the slippery slope down into the dark side. But then by the time he's like, Padme's safe and like she's actually fine. She survived childbirth and all those kinds of things. Like he's already in that place of darkness and he can't get out. And then Padme like lives on and then like she's literally in A New Hope and like I don't know what the story would be with like Luke and Leia, but
that's like you're dreaming up a straight up like Star Wars what if scenario. Like I like that.
Yeah. I think about it a lot. I think it would be so cool to see that. And he's like, oh my God, I like made this thing up on my own. And it like, but he's already in that darkness. And then the next 20 years of content will be him like kind of dealing with that and trying to escape his darkness. And he kind of maybe keeps failing to escape it. And then eventually, obviously, somehow with his kids of Luke and Leia would like save him and get him out of it. Anyway. Yeah,
that's the most unfortunate thing about Revenge of the Sith, and it's not. I'm not talking about like, oh, she died of a broken heart, but whatever. Like, I'm just like genuinely, Padme dying in that movie is a bummer. And like, if you could redo the story, like you would have her live on and play a part in the rebellion or do something like that, and like that's
correct,
how you. Like, I think that would be the better story, but they couldn't do that because they already filmed the other movies. Chris, any thoughts here?
I think that Well, okay, there's two, and I'm kind of conflicted right now. Like the obscure thing that I would change is that I wouldn't have let them kill off Asajj Ventress in a book. Like I think that's dumb.
Yeah, fair
They
enough.
should
Fair
have
enough.
like done like they should have waited till they could make another like Clone Wars or like Tales of the Jedi about that story, and not done Dark's Disciple as a book. Or like made it into a movie or like a TV show or like there's like a live action show. There's so many things they could have done with that. And I'm a little disappointed that something so major happened in a book. So there's that. And then, but I think kind of more directly, like majorly, I would have changed the way Padme died. Like I wouldn't have had her die and then have the explanation be like her heart has broken. Like I would have like made some type of like you assume like for instance when like Leia dies or when Luke dies, you kind of know what's going on in those situations. I would have done something kind of more similar to that, where like if it was really true that she was like trying to keep the babies alive, or like there's some type of force thing going on, or like I would have explained that a little bit more clearly so we knew what was going on. That gave her a little bit more power for her characters. Like I understand that technically speaking, it is possible to die of a broken heart. Like it is technically possible within the realm of science for that to happen. I think just as a storytelling mechanism, it's really kind of a weak cop out to get rid of a character. Like I think that there's so many more options you have. Literally, so you have done anything but that. You could have had her succumbing to injuries. You could have had, some type of force power draining attack thing happen. Like you could have had her like sacrifice herself in some way. Like there's just so many options for that other than she's lost the will to live or whatever the heck they did. Like it's just so
funny.
dumb. That is just such an odd choice for that character.
And I like the fan thing where they're like, oh yeah, clearly Palpatine siphoned her life force and he killed her. Like, and that was the thing. Like, that sounds good, but it's not in the movie. Like it's not telegraphed in the movie.
We made that.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that's fan. Like if you want to, like I'm all for people making up retcons themselves to make them feel better about something. Like full stop. If you enjoy it more with your headcanon, by all means, but doesn't change the fact that like it's not in the movie.
Yeah.
So
that would be a good change. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm struggling with this one, if I'm being honest. I'm trying to avoid something. Because I know what a certain someone would say.
Oh no!
If they were here, and I feel like I could echo their statement, but I don't want to go down that path. You all know what I'm talking about, so I'm just gonna leave it at that and say
so elusive
that I really still hate. This is one of my most hated things in all Star Wars, and I'll continue to hate it. And I would change it if I had the chance. Canonically, the Tainted Four is not the Tainted Four in the Revenge of the Sith. It's the Sundered Heart. I hate that so much, and I would retcon that so that the Revenge of the Sith ship is actually the Tainted Four. It's so stupid.
Old one.
I hate it.
I haven't heard that brought up in a while. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Long time listeners have heard me rant about this a while ago.
This is what we used to concern ourselves with before the new movies. We're like, what do we argue about with Star Wars? Oh, stuff like this.
It's so good.
But also, if we're going new school, yes, Rey wouldn't be a Palpatine. Next question.
There it is. That's what I was expecting.
Rey Kenobi.
There you go, Dominic.
Oh,
he got it. He got his thing. He was screaming it into the void. Listening to this, I know he was.
Oh man, yeah. Thankfully, he dipped out and stopped watching anymore. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of comments in the chat right now. But there's not from him, thankfully.
Yeah. We're just gonna slide on past it. Go to the next one. Go to something a little bit related. From Burning. What now? Oh,
but before we go there,
we got Bert.
But before we go
Oh,
there,
yes, I forgot. Yes,
I do have
Programming
to
note.
bid my farewell. Like, was that last week where I like didn't know how to exit after I said bye? I was like, oh, how do I leave now?
Yes, you say bye and then you go.
Yeah, bye. Oh, but
Good day.
great
Just
to
poof,
meet you.
gone.
I'll goodbye. Well, actually, what's the opposite of good day?
How do you say
Goodbye.
bye in your neck of the woods?
Good night,
What is the
dear.
Australian farewell?
See ya. Like
See ya?
see ya. Is pretty much it.
See ya, mate.
Yeah. See ya, mate.
Why do we say good night and you say good day, but they don't seem to cross over?
That's
Why is that?
true. We don't want to use each other's things. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what how else we say goodbye. Ciao. Good. Oh, I can't. I got to come back. I got to think about that. I really don't know what to say. See ya. I think that's just.
You just get to pay attention to the next time
Yeah.
someone bids you adieu.
Someone
and then
leaves.
And
is
just
like,
listen. Take a note of what they say.
Bye now.
Catcha. What about
All right, you
catcha?
can leave
Yeah,
now.
it's a
It's
good
official.
one.
You can go.
See you on
Okay,
the
all
right
right.
side.
I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. Oh gosh. And she has left.
All right.
Yay, she did it.
She left the building.
figured
Left
it
the
out.
building. She left the studio. She's out. She's out. She finally got out. Proud of her. Okay, next question. We only got a couple more to go. Let's try to power through these. Okay, so we got next one. Burning Tiger 24 on Discord. They say, how would you like to see Finn grow post canon?
Post canon.
I'm here's what
Was
I'm
it like
assuming.
not
I'm
canonically
assuming,
anymore? I'm confused.
I'm assuming they're referring to just post canon stories, as in post Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, it's
and
an
like
interesting way of putting it. My brain went.
yeah, it's an interesting way of putting it, but I think I'm assuming
know
if
what it
you're
means.
if we're misinterpreting
Yeah.
this, Burning Tire, please let us know. We'll come back to this question on a later episode. But but way I would see it, like I like what they've been doing with Finn in the Lego specials, and stuff.
Yes,
like just keep doing that. Just keep doing
Yeah.
that. Like he's Jedi training and he's hanging out with Force ghosts and he's got a lightsaber and yeah, more of that. Like that's what I want from Finn. That's filling the hole that Rise of Skywalker left. It was like, oh, you could have had this Jedi Finn. We're getting that. They're giving us in a small way. In my opinion, that is canon. That stuff is absolutely canon. It's part of the story and it's just a continuation. And if anything comes along, I'm expecting it to follow that.
I don't understand. Like, I get that you want to bring in people to write and direct movies that are like, alpha people who are going to come up with their own ideas. Like, that makes sense. But at the same time, like, it just boggles my mind that it is so clear that the writers of the Lego special understand the sequel characters better than the people who wrote the movies. Like it's like you watch those and it's like, okay, the characters are so cohesive and they move them forward in ways that make sense. And you watch the sequels and you're just like, what? Like it's just kind of confusing. And so, and that's why, have fun finding somebody who likes all three of those movies. So it's tough. It's really tough, but yeah, I agree. He needs to come more into he needs to explore more of his Force kind of side to himself, definitely, and that would be great.
Yeah, because we've always talked about it, people keep bringing up the fact that like, oh, what if an animated series or a TV show or whatever could do for the sequels what the Clone Wars did for the prequels. I think that's already happening with the sequel with those things. I think that's already a great example of someone taking what's established, going forward, and just taking the story from where it left off. Doesn't matter if you loved it or hated it or whatever else. It takes what was there and moves on with it. It's not throwing shade at the movies. It's just taking what's there and moving forward with it.
Yeah,
and it does it great, and it does things. It includes all the characters. Rose has more screen time in the Lego specials than she does in the entirety of the Rise of Skywalker. Like, it just goes to show how much better they treat the characters. So, like, hell yeah. Like, I think just continuing on with that, I think I know it sounds crazy, but I really would. I hope that any new writers coming in, specifically whoever's going to be writing Stephen Knight, I think, who's writing the Rey Skywalker movie. I hope they're looking at what Lego's done with that and saying, look, this is what people are really liking this. Take this and run with it. Take this as this is part of the story. Yeah, it's not technically canon, it's Lego, but it's good. It's good storytelling regardless of that. So yeah, that's to answer the question. Yeah, I just want more. I want Finn Jedi training, and maybe even it's supposed to be 15 years after. So Jedi Master Finn, anyone?
Heck yeah. Yeah. I really hope that happens. I think that would be the best thing. That would be so cool. Please make this happen.
And okay, so next one we got is not a question. It's just a heart.
Thank you.
So, heart you too, Voyager. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you.
So next we'll go to another one from Joel Davis, who says, for anyone watching Indy 5, are you worried it won't hit the $800 million mark it needs to break even?
Why does that matter?
Well, it's being compared to Solo, weirdly, because it has a very large budget, and it apparently will only break even if it hits 800 million.
But so Solo had a sequel and then other spin-offs that were similar in the works. So the fact that Solo didn't do well meant that we didn't get a sequel to Solo, and we had some spin-offs that were canceled. If Indy 5 doesn't do well, what happens? What's the negative consequence?
You pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. Like this is something like literally that's the difference. Is yes, ultimately when you see a movie and you love a franchise, you want it to do well, and it's a bummer. Solo was a bummer, and it was a bummer because obviously there were sequels planned and we wanted to do good, and it was Star Wars. I wanted to be successful. I loved that movie. I wanted people to watch it, and I hated that I didn't get a chance to watch it as many times in theaters that I could because it literally bombed and just left the theaters very quickly, and I wasn't able to rewatch it. With Indy, I think there's been some tracking issues, and I think it may not make. I think from the positive buzz I've seen as of just past few hours have been pretty good. The critics have not been as kind to it, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. They're not trying to build a franchise. This movie is literally marketed as the last entry in the franchise. There may be more stuff. I would be willing to bet that this will not be the last Indiana Jones movie by any means. There will be more stuff, but it's not going to be anytime soon, I don't think. And they're not going to be using this as a jumping off point because Harrison Ford has been pretty clear about being done with this character. So I think maybe the only thing it might affect is just, how fast they do it. If it's below 800 million, if it doesn't do as well, then Disney's going to be like, okay, we'll put a pin in that and we won't be coming back to Indy. If it blows past 800 million and we're talking about one of the biggest movies of the year, they may be really starting to talk about, okay, what spin-offs can we pull out of this? But all in all, I don't think it matters a whole lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, obviously, if it doesn't do well, it'll have some type of consequence. I'm just having a hard time seeing that because I've kind of almost seen this movie as am I right? Is it true that the reason why this movie exists is because Harrison Ford said, I won't come back to Star Wars unless you make another Indiana Jones movie? Did I make that up, or is there sources for this?
Look, I don't know where that came from. I genuinely don't, but it's a story I've heard, and I've continued to parrot to so many people with the addendum that I don't know where this came from, and I don't know if it's true, but that's the story that I heard, is that one of the enticing things, the reason he agreed to do The Force Awakens was due to the fact that he wanted to come back and do another Indiana Jones movie. And because, as we all know, I don't think he ever hated Han Solo as much as we thought he did, but he really loves Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford is in love with that character. He loves playing that character. He wanted to do at least one more movie, and that was, I'm assuming, part of his contract was things. I think it just took him a while because Force Awakens was a while ago, if you haven't noticed, but they've been working on it ever since. And I think so. That's a story that I've definitely accepted as gospel. It may not be true, but it's true to me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fascinating. That's fascinating. But I'm excited to see it. And I have zero expectations. I think it's going to be the worst movie I've ever seen. So I'm sure I'll like it.
I mean, you can't exactly do any worse than that. So yeah, that's
someone I know just saw it and said it was a 2 out of 10. So
I saw that, and I'm like, surely, I don't know. It's got to be. Hey, look, because I get messed up on movies because I will sometimes see movies after opening weekend. I can't get to them like on Friday and Saturday, like to me later this weekend before I can see Indy. And like I'll hear everyone gushing about it, going, "It's the best movie ever! Oh my gosh, it's so great!" And then I get to it and I have just like unreasonably high expectations. I'm walking the theater thinking it's going to be the best movie I've ever seen, and no movie can live up to that. So I'm trying to keep my head, and I've seen some very reasonable, comments about this one. People are saying like, yeah, it's kind of middle of the road. It's better than Crystal Skull and not any better than the original movies. And I'm like, that's kind of what I expected. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's all the indie talk we're gonna have on the show tonight. I don't know. Maybe we'll do a full indie review next week or something like that if we have just nothing to talk about.
I mean, this is the Indiana Jones Underworld. I'm kind of shocked that this was not a full preview expectations episode for Dial of Destiny.
If there's like no Star Wars news next week, be warned. I will come to you with that pitch. Okay, we're gonna talk about indie. But we have two more questions, one from Discord, one from the super chats. They both have to do with the Rey movie, so I'll start with Vlad Sander, who asks, do you think we may see items from the EU New Jedi Order or the EU Jedi Academy trilogy or the EU Young Jedi Knight series in the new Rey movie? I am kind of hoping to see a live action Night Sisters or Vong. So these titles have been kind of bandied about as like, oh, it's the New Jedi Order, it's the Dawn of the Jedi, it's these things. I'm under the assumption that they won't be pulling from those things, but as we've seen with The Mandalorian, they've been pulling a lot from Legends in the EU. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities. I still contend that they might pull a Yuuzhan Vong at some point. They might do that at some point. Could after the First Order in the Rey movie, could that be the threat at some point? I don't know, but it's an interesting thought.
Yeah. I just assume that I don't have a new answer to this. I felt like it's going to come from Filoni. That's where I think it's going to come from. So I think Filoni is more apt to pull things from Legends than anybody else in the sequel era, at least. So
yeah, Filoni not only knows the lore better than any other writer working on Star Wars currently, he has the cojones to do it. So I think that's a fair assessment that like I'm not saying that Yuuzhan Vong are going to be the threat in the Filoni movie, because Thrawn obviously is going to be that threat. But I don't know if there's more stuff in that era, and if they're going to close the book on the cloning plot thread, or the Empire plot thread, what? I don't know. Was there a Vong invasion between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens? I don't know, but it's an interesting thought. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's really fascinating. We'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they continue to roll along with the plots and pull things from the EU and and more writers, hopefully like Filoni, who will come in and play with stuff like that. Because as much as people trash on the EU, there's a lot of good stuff in there that could be used. Okay, and so one final question, and it's again from Mr. Joel Davis. Glad to have another one from Joel. He says, do you think the chances of seeing the Rey film are higher if Disney putting more pressure on Lucasfilm to release it come heck or high water? So I guess this is maybe not necessarily about this writer strike, just in general, that there's a lot of talk about this, that that Lucasfilm hasn't put out a movie in a while, not counting Indy, and there's pressure on Kathleen Kennedy to kind of like push this out and make this happen because we haven't done a movie in a while. I don't know. I think they are under a little bit of pressure, but I also think that like they have options. So, I feel like they're not being like, oh, hell or high water, we're going to do this. They can experiment. I think, as we've discussed earlier, this movie sounds like it's pretty far along anyway.
Yeah. The way that the question's phrased, I feel like the question is not within the question. Like the question is, Joel, says, do you think the chances of seeing the Rey film are higher if Disney is putting pressure on Lucasfilm to release it come heck or high water? There's only one answer to that question, which is yes. But that's not the question. The question is Disney putting that pressure on Lucasfilm or not?
Right.
That's the question. And so I don't know. We don't know. There's no answer to that question. So if they are, of course, and if they're not, then they're not. That's kind of, but you could speculate about it, but none of us really know. People claim to know. People on the internet claim to know, but they're the people.
A lot of people claim a lot of things.
They said Kathleen Kennedy would be gone 2 years ago. So I don't trust them at all. I didn't trust them to begin with, and I definitely don't trust them now because everything they've said has not come to pass. So, I mean, my assumption here is that whatever delays are happening with the Star Wars films, Disney is okay with it, and Bob Iger is okay with it. Because why would Kathleen Kennedy still be there? And why would things be still run the same way if Disney, the shareholders and Iger and all those people were not okay with this? Like, clearly this is their plan too. This is all of them. This is what they want. They want to wait until the timing's right, and they don't want to push anything because the last time they pushed something, there were issues. So
right
now, of course, they blame people other than themselves for that, which is wrong. It was their own fault. Not for the reasons other people blame them for, though. Funnily enough, it's just they just did scheduling bad with release scheduling. That's it. Like, I'm going to say this over and over and over again. There were like 5 movies that made $1 billion within like a 40-day window, and Solo was in that window. So it's like one of them is not going to do well, and they got unlucky, and it was the one that didn't. They were even competing against themselves practically. Solo came out like a few weeks away from a big Marvel film, I think.
Endgame, I believe.
Yeah, it was like it couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 weeks between those movies. Like, what are you doing? It was
Deadpool 2, Endgame, something else in there.
And then there was the Pixar movie that was about to come out too.
Yeah.
Later, Incredibles 2 came out, I think, like a few weeks after it. So, everybody stopped watching. And then that's just their own studio. Let alone the fact that you had Jurassic Park coming out, Jurassic World, I think, or Jurassic.
That was another one. Fallen Kingdom was out around that time.
Yeah. So it's like there was other movies too that they were competing against outside their own studio. So it's just they just oversaturated the market, and that was the least interesting of the movies that they put out because the other ones were like highly anticipated. Like, you're talking about one of people's favorite Pixar films. You're talking about the pinnacle, the most important MCU movie. The most important MCU movie. And you think that that's going to compete against a side story that really means nothing to the overall Star Wars story. Like, So, like, the only thing that could have done well in that period was probably The Force Awakens. If they had put Last Jedi in there, if they had put Rise of Skywalker in there, if they had put Rogue One in there, Rogue One would have done just as bad as Solo in that time frame.
Yeah.
So anyway, but regardless of who's correct and about blaming who and who's to blame and what the problem really was, the point is they screwed up. It was screwed up. It didn't go well. So they're not about to force it again. They're waiting for everything to fall into place. They is everybody. It's a team. It's not a war. It's not like you have Kathleen Kennedy constantly screwing things up and Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau coming in and being like, we're going to fix this. Like, that's not what's happening. That's dumb. Like, if that was the case, this whole thing would have blown up a long time ago. Like, holy crap, people.
And they're learning this across multiple franchises. Marvel also had an overabundance of TV shows and movies that they were coming out, and now they're pulling back on that. We're seeing Disney kind of learning, hopefully, from their mistakes and realizing that they can't just pump things out on assembly line, that they have to take their time with this. And, I think Bob Iger even acknowledged this at some point, that they made some mistakes. So it's going to take some time. And I would hope that they're not putting pressure on Lucasfilm, because it's not all of Lucasfilm's fault. Because I don't think Kathleen Kennedy would have made that call if given the choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, this movie is going to come out at some point, I think.
Yeah. And I don't want to armchair quarterback and like make up a scenario in my head of what I think is going on behind the scenes, because that's obviously for the job of everyone else on YouTube, not us. But also, I don't want to sound like those people, positively or negatively, okay? Because I don't know. I'm an idiot. We don't have inside sources or anything. And those people that claim they have inside sources definitely do not have inside sources, okay? They don't have a clue what's going on either. So it's really dangerous to kind of like do all this. It's like it's going to happen, or it's not going to happen, and you just got to be patient and whatever. So yeah, it gets real dumb real quick. So it's not necessary. Two more super chats. We got two more late super chats really quick. We'll run through really quick. They're not questions. They're just statements. We got one from Jeff who says, "Show it."
Wait, are you referring to the thing, Jeff?
I don't know. I don't know. Jeff,
we should wait till Dominic's here to show it.
Show what?
I don't know if it's what I think he's talking about.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll figure it out. The other one comes from Jesse. Another one, he just says, "Final chat for the night. Congrats on number 100 on YouTube." So thank you so much, Jesse, for all the super chats. Thanks everyone for all their super chats and all their questions. This was indeed a great episode. And Jeff says, "Yes, South Park."
Okay, hold on.
Can you get it? I
I'm
saw
pulling
it in the
up
group
right
chat.
now.
I don't pay attention to messages on.
Yeah.
Can we show it? This is not okay. I hope this is not gonna get us banned off YouTube, is it?
No, I don't see why it would. It's fan art. All right.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Take the chat off the screen.
Oh, yeah. Hang on.
There's too many things on the screen. Oh my god.
It's layers upon layers of, oh my god.
Look at that. Look at that beauty. That's
For
so
those
awesome.
listening, it's all of us as South Park characters. This is amazing.
Dominic's so mad. Blame Jeff, not me. Jeff was the one that was telling us to do this against what I wanted to do. It's not my fault. This is awesome.
We'll bring it up next week.
You can react to it next week, Dominic.
How do we turn this off?
Oh, there you go.
And with that, we will begin to wrap things up for this week's show. And do I do the music or do you?
I got it.
I can go do it.
There it goes.
I'll let you do it.
I clicked the right one. Yes.
Yay,
I always forget which one it
we
is.
got music.
All right, that's it for this episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Throughout the week, you can follow us at the SWU for the latest breaking news and everything. But we'll be back in 7 days with another episode, same time, same place. We want to thank Hannah for hosting. She had to leave earlier. And Ben, thank you so. Oh wait, Dominic,
we're
you
not
weren't
done.
quick enough. You weren't quick enough, Dominic.
I made it. I made the show. I'm here.
You're late.
I couldn't get the computer set up in time. But I'm here. I made it. Hi.
Hi.
We want to talk about Disney Gallery.
I haven't seen
it yet.
Me neither. Great job, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Good job. Way to go, everybody. What did you talk about then? Just
We talked about the Rey. We talked about the Rey and Mangold
Let's
stuff.
see.
Okay.
Let's see. The Rey Skywalker movie, James Mangold's comments, Kathleen Kennedy's comments.
A lot of comments.
Andor is shooting. Oh yeah, we found out that Toggle Lesser and Jar Jar are going to be in Andor, and they're going to be on Naboo. That's confirmed.
Makes sense. Perfect. Love it.
And yeah, there's Ahsoka trailer maybe coming later this weekend. The Bad Batch is over. Appo's in Obi-Wan, and that's it.
Sounds like a great show. I look forward to
Excellent
listening
show.
to it. Yeah. Toggle the Lesser and Jar Jar. I like it. All right. Well, bye.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, thanks to Dom and Hannah Ben for hosting the show.
Well, we were all here tonight. You got all four of us, just at different
Yes.
times tonight.
And Ben, thanks for hosting as well.
Oh, this was a pleasure. This was a mouthful of an episode, but it was a pleasure, and oh yeah, just great to talk about all this. I didn't know what we were going to talk about this week, because there's been kind of a lot of Star Wars news, but also not a whole lot of Star Wars news, because obviously Indiana Jones is still in full swing and will probably be for another week or so. But yeah, I genuinely don't know what to expect after this, because we'll see how this goes. But lots to look forward to, and maybe an Ahsoka trailer next week. Who knows? Maybe something else. Maybe some more Andor photos. Who knows? But yeah, this was a lot of fun time. And if for some reason you want to hear more of this, I'll point you in the direction of my other podcast, IPC. We posted another episode, and we talked about I just keep wanting to say Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse. So that was a lot of fun. Go check that out at IPC Podcast on your
It's been
feeds.
so long, I got rid of the thing, but I just made it back. There it is.
IPC.
Check it out. Awesome. Of course, you can follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. You can follow me at Seek3PO. Thank you, everybody who something about flashbacks. Ben, Jesse saying, Ben saying, we got music gave me flashbacks that I can't hear you. That's funny.
Inside joke.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Well, thanks to everybody who super chatted. I lost connection on the computer I was controlling that with. There we go. Thank you everybody who super chatted. And thanks to all of our channel members for helping support us financially. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can have the link to join our Discord. It's in the description of the YouTube video, on the description of the notes in the podcast apps. So make sure you check that out, and make sure you check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network, including the Raeside, Iron Cannon, and Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. Also in its new studio is Ion Cannon, which is Mondays on this very channel, so make sure you don't miss that. And of course, you can find Hannah's channel. If you're just listening, it's Raeside, Raeside. That's how you spell that if you want to search for that and find her stuff. And Tales from Beyond the Galaxy is on Twitch, so just search for that on Twitch and you will find them. So that's it for this week. We are out of here. Until next time, for Dom and Hannah and Ben, my name is Chris. May the Force be with you. It's a wrap.
There you go.